Planetarium Negara bersama NGO antarabangsa dan seluruh komuniti astronomi di seluruh dunia akan meraihkan Global Astronomy Month yang bermula pada 1 April iaitu pada hari ini sehingga penghujung Jun 2022. Dengan mengambil inspirasi Astronomers Without Borders Response, sambutan Global Astronomy Month pada kali ini diharap dapat membuka ruang yang lebih besar dalam perkongsian idea, peluang dan penyertaan daripada semua ahli astronomi, tempatan dan juga luar negara. Di peringkat Malaysia, sambutan ini diharap mampu menjadi penghubung antara penggiat astronomi, tempatan dan luar negara bagi mewujudkan kegairahan dan minat mendalam masyarakat terhadap astronomi bersesuaian dengan slogan People Want Sky. Puan yang dihormati sekalian, tanpa membuang masa, majlis diteruskan dengan rakaman ucapan pelancaran Global Astronomy Month dan Memory of Leonard Art dari pengarah Planetarium Negara Puan Haja Anita binti Haji Bahari. Mari kita sama-sama saksikan rakaman ucapan dan juga montaj pelancaran tersebut.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera kepada seluruh keluarga Malaysia. Pada tahun ini, Kementerian Sains, Teknologi dan Inovasi atau MOSTI melalui Planetarium Negara bersama sebuah NGO antarabangsa Astronomy Without Borders dan seluruh komuniti astronomi di seluruh dunia meraihkan Global Astronomy Month bermula 1 April 2022. Kami menyediakan 16 aktiviti sempena Global Astronomy Month yang akan berlangsung mulai hari ini 1 April sehingga 15 Jun 2022. Nantikan kesemua 16 aktiviti menarik yang akan dipaparkan di media sosial rasmi Planetarium Negara. Turut memberi sokongan padu ialah dari Kementerian Sains, Teknologi dan Inovasi Sabah, Majlis Amanah Rakyat atau MARA, International Association of Astronomical Artists dan Canvas to Cosmos. Pada pagi ini, Planetarium Negara akan membawa misi pelancaran Memories of Leonard, ianya untuk memperingati kenangan pesawat angkasa lepas Komet Leonard C2021A1 ke sistem suria kita pada 3 Januari 2021 yang lalu. Sebuah karya asli yang menggunakan media cat air di atas kertas, Syahirah menerapkan gaya seni Van Gogh melalui sapuan berus yang dramatik untuk meluahkan emosi pergerakan komet tersebut di langit malam. Warna langit malam yang gelap menunjukkan bahawa dalam kegelapan kita boleh melihat lebih banyak objek angkasa. Gelap menunjukkan tiada pencemaran cahaya. Mari sama-sama kita saksikan subjek utama lukisan Komet Leonard yang divisualisasikan sebagai jalur cahaya berapi-rapi melintasi langit malam sebagai ekspresi artistik objek sebenar Komet Leonard. Dengan seni dan lukisan dapat menggambarkan perasaan dan emosi yang mendalam setiap insan apabila melihat pergerakan komet yang melintasi langit malam. Pemandangan di atas kertas diilhamkan dari pengalaman sebenar lintasan Komet Leonard yang tidak mungkin dilupakan seumur hidup. Untuk memahami dengan lebih mendalam, kita saksikan penerangan dari pelukis kreatif seni angkasa iaitu Puan Syahirah sebentar lagi. Saksikan juga perkongsian hasil seni angkasa di galeri khas Planetarium Negara Serikandi Angkasa di platform serikandiangkasa.com. Planetarium Negara turut membawa kepada anda International Association of Astronomical Artists untuk membincangkan satu lagi topik menarik, iaitu the role of arts in advancing space exploration, science and astronomy. Jangan lepaskan peluang ini untuk mendengar bagaimana mustahaknya peranan seni dalam menyumbang kepada kejayaan penerokaan manusia ke angkasa lepas. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thanks to Aldo Spadoni, the President of IAAA, for making his time for this webinar. National Planetarium appreciates it. Kami berharap aktiviti yang dibawa khas sempena Global Astronomy Month ini akan memberi manfaat kepada semua, termasuk pengisian sebulan Ramadan nanti. Terima kasih semua. Dan tanpa melengahkan masa, dengan ini saya dengan lafaz Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, saya melancarkan Global Astronomy Month peringkat kebangsaan dan pameran maya Memory of Leonard. Terima kasih.
The only thing we've found that makes the emptiness bearable is each other.
Terima kasih atas ucapan pelancaran sebentar tadi. Hadirin sekalian, saya berbesar hati menjemput Puan Syahirah binti Nazarudin bagi berkongsi cerita dan info di sebalik lakaran memori Leonard Art dan seterusnya mengendalikan sesi webinar pada hari ini yang bertajuk The IAAA and the Role of Arts in Advancing Space Exploration, Science and Astronomy. Dengan ini, majlis menyerahkan sesi ini kepada Puan Syahirah selaku moderator. Majlis mempersilakan.
Terima kasih kepada Puan Rosmita dan juga saya ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada pihak Planetarium Negara kerana sudi menjemput saya sebagai the artist dan juga menjemput juga pihak IAAA So from now on, I'll be conducting this in English. And I would like to welcome Mr. Aldo Spadoni, the president of IAAA. Hey!
Hello, Syahirah. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we have been working ever since last year for this, and this is the big day. I'm so excited. I just can't contain my happiness right now. Everything is just so unreal. You're here.
All right, we're all connected, so technology is working with us and not against us.
Yep, that's true. And right now, without further ado, I would like to talk about my latest art piece, which is to commemorate the memories of our beloved, our favorite, the brightest deep sky visitor, which is Leonard Comet. Have you ever heard? Have you heard about the Leonard Comet? I'm pretty sure you did, Aldo.
Oh yes, absolutely. I didn't get a chance to see it, unfortunately, but well, actually I did, but it was very dim and the weather wasn't cooperating in my area. But always great to have a comet visit.
Exactly. And the Leonard Comet is the highlight of 2021. And I got to see it only one time at a local observatory near my house. It's not near my house, but it is in my hometown. So yeah, that's the only chance I had, because I've been living in light polluted area and I didn't have the opportunity to see it. It is quite impossible here right now where I'm currently living. And I would like to share the screen for this talk. All right. So on 3rd January of 2021, Leonard Comet was discovered by Gregory Leonard at the Mount Lemmon Observatory, and it is dubbed as 2021 brightest comet. And at the end of last year, we were able to see Leonard Comet at its most glorious point. The ion tail of the comet appeared complex with knots and streamers and bluish green glowing nucleus. And I've seen pictures, shots from our Malaysian local astrophotographers, and they were amazing. I'm so proud of them. And of course, the others from the overseas, I've seen their pictures, absolutely marvelous, and that have inspired me. And I was at that time, as I told everyone, I was at a local observatory with the other local astrophotographers and astronomers on December 24th, when the comet was still displaying its outburst-induced ion tail, which is absolutely breathtaking. That was the highlight of Leonard Comet, its tail. And in my arts, that's what I've been portraying. I've been highlighting, I've been showing through the strokes of brushes its tail, its glorious tail. And all of that time, all of the telescopes were pointing towards the visitor of the from the interstellar space. And that night, the sky was crisp clear between the assembly of the planets. There it was, Leonard with its glorious tail and bright nucleus. And as all eyes on the comet, I witnessed the astronomical passing of my lifetime. And I went back home and creating this image of the art that I would produce out of this experience and emotions that night. Okay, so this is what I have witnessed through the telescope, and it is projected on a computer screen. But this is not the one I've seen, but close to this one. I will show it later. And to commemorate the memories of deep space visitor C2021 A1 Leonard Comet to our solar system, I have produced an art series entitled Memories of Leonard using watercolor medium and paper. And I implemented a Van Gogh art style into the art pieces, which can be recognized through the bold dramatic brush strokes that express emotions and added feeling of movement in the seemingly static night sky. The colors chosen by me for the background sky emphasize that the dark night sky is not entirely pitch black. This shows that in the darkness, we can see more. And the main subject, which is the Leonard Comet itself, is visualized as a fiery streak of light crossing the night sky, which is an artistic expression of the real thing. And as we have witnessed from many shots taken by the astrophotographers, the comet displayed spectacular outbursts in this iron tail structure, which, in my opinion, is best depicted incandescently in every art pieces. As Leonard Comet begins to disintegrate as it moves away from our home star, currently missing its coma, its nucleus, and its atmosphere. This art series illustrated the comet's blazing days across the terrestrial night sky and the deep emotions I experienced while observing the once-in-a-lifetime visitor. And recently, on 3rd January of 2021, 2022, sorry, the comet is have reached its perihelion, its nearest point around the sun, and currently traveling out of the solar system. And it is currently losing its atmosphere and also its nucleus. And as Gregory Leonard, the discoverer of Comet 2021 A1 told us, the legacy of Leonard Comet will likely to be the spectacular outburst-induced displays of its iron tail structures. Otherworldly and astonishing are the only descriptions that come to mind when I begin viewing the images being posted online by a handful of dedicated expert astrophotographers, particularly after December 19th, 2021, when the comet began undergoing strong periodic outburst activity. So when I'm producing this series of art, I didn't know that it is disintegrating, because that time when I'm working on the art series, it is still at its perihelion. So last week I just discovered that it is disintegrating. It is losing its form. So I was like, this is sad, but it is bittersweet, because all of us, everyone on Earth, have already recorded, have already captured its glorious days, and we know that we will never be able to see it in our. We would say that we would see some occurrences of some events in the night sky next time, but this one we won't be able to anymore. So this is our arts, our the shots from these astrophotographers are the memories, our imprint that we have observed this deep space visitor. And I am very much inspired by Van Gogh, as I have mentioned. So I wanted to make the sky look more dynamic. I want it to look dynamic, even though the sky moves slowly, night by night and month by month. I know it is based on our perception, but as an artist, I would like to express those movements. I will express that night, every night that I'm looking at the night sky, it is compiled into this painting. If it's one painting, yes, it is in one painting. It is moving, it is dynamic. So that's what I'm trying to convey in my painting through Van Gogh's technique. And these are pictures in Balai Chirap Kota Baru, or Kota Baru Observatory. I was with the other astronomers and astrophotographers. I think he's here, Abeji and Kak Rose. Yeah, she was there with me, and they were very helpful. They helped me. They explained to me, like, this is where the comet is positioned right now, and through the telescope, which is and then the image is projected on the computer screen. I'm just amazed. No words can describe how spectacular it was that night. And they told me that I was lucky that night, because I get to because the sky is crisp. It's clear, only a little bit of cloud, but at the sunset, it was totally clear. And I can see the assembly of planets. And in between that, I remember Kak Rose said that the comet is situated like between these planets. And I want to cry that night. And this inspired me. When I look at the picture, sort of inspired me, but when I get to see myself, the comet at this this observatory, it is another experience. It is truly giving me more ideas on what to put in my art. And this experience has inspired me to produce one of the painting called All Eyes on You, because all the telescope that time in the observatory all pointing towards a comet. So as we all know, telescopes are optical instruments, and they're acting like our extended eyes. So that's why one of the art piece is entitled All Eyes on You. And yeah, I also brought some of my other paintings to the observatory. Yeah, we're just marking my place there. I'm this space artist is here in this observatory, watching the passing of our lifetime together with the other local astronomers and astrophotographers. And yeah, I also recorded my painting process, because every step is meaningful in producing these art pieces. From the sketch, from the moment I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about producing this art up until it is finished. Every step is meaningful, and it is a process of learning for me. So we still have more time before we move on to our next webinar. And I just want to deliver some message as someone who produced this painting, like for everyone to, whenever you stargaze, whenever you observe the night sky objects and inspired you, please, even though it is not as much, you think that it is not as much, but producing art is something human. And if it inspires you, then make something out of it, because we are human. We would want to make physical representation of what has inspired us. Like for centuries, human has been making physical representation of the cosmos, or what they have seen in the night sky based on their surroundings. And up until today, we can see the great divide between science and art, science, mathematics, and art. So this having this talk today, I would love to deliver this message that we should have this together. We should have this marriage of art and science together, so that we are able to express our passion towards science as well, and delivering it in our own perspective. And we need this. And as a school teacher, as an educator, that's what I've been telling my kids too. You should not see art as something that is easy, because I am also teaching art. And I told them, in art, there is science, there's mathematics, there's history, and they should express those knowledge that they are interested in their own way, in form of arts. And this is very important to me, because because when I ask my student, what do you want to be when you grow up? You want to be an artist. A lot of them wants to be an artist, and that shouldn't be shut down by saying art is something that is easy. Okay. Is there a question?
Yes,
Yes.
Syahirah, thanks for the wonderful presentation about the units. When you when I still in Agensi Angkasa Negara, we have a team out for the Langkawi National Observatory. The telescope team is an eye to space, because when we designed Langkawi National Observatory, we imagine that that is the eye for Malaysia to looking to space, and somewhere somehow you also have that kind of team, which is, I think, is very much related. I would like to know from the beginning, when you start observing and then you realize that the images is so great, until you finish your painting, how long it takes? That is my first question, Syahirah.
Thank you, Mr. Pyrus, for the question. So for I can't really tell. I don't really have like specific time I want to start and finish. Like some painting take me only one day, and some paintings took me a week. So it depends on the details, and like the piece, the art piece, All Eyes on You, that one took me 1 week. Meanwhile, Between Planets and the Stars, that one took me only 1 day. It varies.
Syahirah, I enjoyed seeing your painting setup in the pictures that you can paint outdoors, which is hard for a lot of artists. I've never tried to do that. I sketched and drew with pencil outside, but not with paints. Do you work with acrylic paints? What kind of paints were those that you showed?
Oh, for the one that you saw in the picture, that one I'm working with watercolor and gouache.
Oh, gouache. Okay.
Yeah, gouache. I love gouache. It
Why?
acts like watercolor and acrylic in the same time. I don't know. I think that it has both properties, which I love.
Well, I started in gouache, so I'm glad. Interesting you say that, because gouache is opaque, and most people associate watercolor with the transparent. But that's why I was wondering, because it looked like you were painting with very opaque acrylics. So yeah, gouache is fantastic. I understand.
Do you still work with gouache, Aldo?
No, I do. I'm too lazy. I do mostly digital now. It's so easy to mix colors digitally that, like, as you alluded earlier, painting is work and takes discipline and skill. And if you don't do it often, you kind of forget, well, what two colors do I need to blend to make that color? If you're not doing it often, it's, so I do want to get back into actual painting, and I've done some oil work recently, but yeah, it's real painting is hard. So I admire your Comet Leonard series in particular. Very well done.
Thank you so much, Aldo. I particularly love traditional art, like the using brush and paints, because I find it very therapeutic. I also work digitally. I love digital arts. Before this, I spent hours and hours in front of my computer and my drawing tab, just working on an art piece. But I found that it is stressing me out. I don't know, maybe because of the computer screen. And I get so immersed in working on the painting that I have to stop. I have to stop doing that to myself. Unless it is my work, unless it is something that I have to work on a commission, then I have to work on that. But if it's to just to calm myself down, to just enjoy art, I would love to work with traditionally.
Mm-hmm. I understand that makes sense.
Thank you so much for the question, Aldo. I mean, for the explanation, Aldo. So I would love to see you to see your traditional art someday. if you have the time to show us later during your webinar.
Sure, sure. Well, in my talk, I do have at least some drawings that I made that I'll show, and just one itty bitty picture of an oil painting I did not too long ago. So I'll point those out when I give my talk.
Awesome. I would love to try oil painting someday. I have already bought tubes of oil paints, but I find myself so difficult to start it because I don't want to go out of my comfort zone yet. So right now, I'm working on acrylic, gouache, and also watercolor, and maybe sometimes digital art. All right, I think that I'm done with my memories of Leonard presentation. So everyone, if you want to see the art, you can go to www.srikandiangkasa.com and you can see the art series, Memories of Leonard, and also my personal explanations of each art piece. And right now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our special guest artist, which is already here now. Aldo is already speaking, talking to us. All right. First of all, I would like to thank Planetarium Negara for this astronomical opportunity for the IAAA to spread out our wings in Malaysia and to unravel the cosmic wonders through art. I'm proud to be the bridge that connects both Planetarium Negara and IAAA from the other side of the globe and enlightens my home country people in this field. And as we all are aware of, astronomy and art have a long-standing, profound relationship, and humans have been expressing their knowledge and fascinations towards the cosmos for centuries through physical representations. The mind of an artist can see beyond the interstellar extinction, over the clouds of dust and gas of protoplanets, and into the nurseries of newborn stars. The IAAA, or the International Association of Astronomical Artists, is the world's only guild of artists dedicated to creating images of space. We paint, draw, sculpt, blow glass, and move pixels to show galaxies, stars, planets, moons, any way that the imagination can go, but the camera cannot yet. Today, we have a special artist guest who will bless us with a new horizon in astronomy, space exploration, and science through humans' imaginations and touch. He will be delivering a talk entitled The IAAA and the Role of Art in Advancing Space Exploration, Science, and Astronomy. So I will introduce him first before we let Aldo take the stage. Okay, Aldo Spadoni is an aerospace engineer and futurist with over 40 years of experience. He is a veteran of numerous advanced development programs for NASA, the United States Air Force, and Navy. He is a recipient of NASA's Turning Goals into Reality Award for reusable launch vehicle development. Aldo created an award-winning simulation team at Northrop Grumman Aerospace Systems. He is president and chairman of the Board of Trustees of the International Association of Astronomical Artists, IAAA. He is an accomplished self-taught artist and concept designer with 4 US patents to his credit. Aldo's consulting company, Aerospace Imageneering, specializes in the design, visualization, and prototyping of advanced technology concepts and products. As a Hollywood technical consultant and concept designer, he supported the production of Apollo 13, Supernova, Stealth, Iron Man 1 and 2, and other movie projects. He is currently the spacecraft technical advisor on the upcoming interstellar adventure film Persephone. Aldo's personal goals are to promote STEAM education and create compelling, positive visions of humanity's spacefaring future. Let's give the spotlight to the president of IAAA, Aldo Spadoni.
Oh, thank you, Syahirah. Wow, I appreciate that. And thank you for making this connection, and thank you to the Planetarium Nagara for hosting us. So I'm very happy to be here. Okay, so let me get my presentation ready. And I believe I should be able to share the screen. Let's see. Okay, can you all see that? Am I sharing the screen okay? Well,
Yes.
I guess I am.
Yes, great.
Okay, wonderful. All right, well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. For me, it's this evening. For you, it's the morning. So shows we're truly a planetary culture. So I will be talking to you about exploring the role of art in advancing space exploration, science, and astronomy. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, my own career path, and how I managed to merge engineering and art in my career, how I leveraged that both in the aerospace industry, working on scientific things, and as well as the entertainment industry, working in Hollywood. I'll talk a little bit about the IAAA that Syahirah introduced, and finally, I will talk about something I'll call envisioning the unseen. Okay, most people ask, well, how did you get involved in this sort of thing? And for me, it's been a lifelong journey. Way back in 1962, when American John Glenn first orbited the Earth, I was 4 years old, and I was completely fascinated, and I was hooked from that point in space exploration and science and technology. I started drawing way back then. I just picked up pencil and paper and started drawing without being prompted by my parents or anything. And of course, my parents supported me. If you look at the top of the screen here, these are drawings I made when I was 11 and 12 years old, right around the time of the Apollo moon landings. And I love to design things. I love to design rockets and spaceships from the inside out. So I worked in pencils and colored pencils. When I got to high school, I learned how to use gouache, and that's what caught my attention when Syahirah mentioned it. So I learned how to airbrush, and these are paintings I did in gouache when I was a teenager. Now here's some examples of my more current work. I consider myself an aerospace artist and illustrator. The distinction between art and illustration is probably the topic of another discussion. It's complex, people get emotional about it. Many artists don't want to be referred to as an illustrator, but I'm probably mostly an illustrator, I would think. Though I've recently been trying to get more emotion into my work, as you can see with this example here. I call this the world's beckon, and perhaps this piece here, which I call the dance of the Apollo spacecraft. These are all digital works, even though I started, oh, pardon me, I'm having a little trouble with my mouse here. Yeah, most of my work is digital, but this piece you see here with the galaxies is an oil painting I accomplished not too long ago. The first oil painting I've made in quite a few years. So my main platform for creating this imagery is Adobe Photoshop, though I also use various 3D applications and other software tools to pull all these elements together to create this imagery. I've been lucky over the years to have a lot of my work published, and not only in many magazines, aerospace and science magazines, but I managed to get on the cover of a number of magazines, as you see here. I've also gotten my work published in various books. I didn't do these artworks, of course, but my work is prominently featured in various recent space books. These are notable ones edited and published by Ron Miller, one of our most prominent members in the IAAA. Now, just want to show you one particular work that I created not too long ago. So this is a recent work. As you can see, I love rockets. This is an illustration of the mighty Saturn V launch vehicle used to launch the Apollo astronauts to the moon. And I love trying to capture those moments that many other artists don't spend time on. Just the staging of a launch vehicle is a powerful and violent event. Sorry about that. Got to keep my hand away from the mouse. So I love envisioning the energy of rocket flight, the exhaust plumes, and all the events, the complex series of events that it takes to separate the stages of a launch vehicle. So again, this is a combination of a 3D model of the Apollo vehicle, but all the plume and explosions and flame and fire you see is hand painted. But when I say hand painted, I did it in Photoshop, but I use traditional techniques using a tablet and a mouse the way I would have done it if I was painting with traditional media. Now, taking a step back, my career is mostly on the aerospace engineering side. Like many people, when I was in high school, I was challenged with trying to decide, well, should I pursue an art career or an engineering career? And I was lucky to be accepted at MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and I graduated as a mechanical engineer. So with that degree, I entered the aerospace industry, and I worked for 3 wonderful companies, the Hughes Space and Communications, TRW, and most of my time I spent at Northrop Grumman. And I worked on numerous programs, aircraft and spacecraft programs. And I endeavored to keep my engineering and technical background varied rather than staying in one discipline. So I worked in structures, in mass properties, and what we call navigation systems engineering, attitude control systems, which is how spacecraft and aircraft orient themselves and navigate. But most of my real passion is to design the shape of vehicles. So we call that configuration design. And integration, how do we bring in all the elements necessary to configure a complete vehicle system? So that's where I spent most of my career. My very first project was the Galileo NASA mission to Jupiter. And I worked on mass properties on this unusual cone-shaped vehicle, which was the probe that entered the atmosphere of Jupiter. So it was quite an interesting introduction to the world of aerospace engineering for me. Now, partway through my career, I had kind of abandoned my art skill because the engineering side kept me very busy. But about halfway through my career, I was really struggling and trying to figure out a way to blend my interests in engineering and art. And luckily, I was working for a great mentor who was very high up in the leadership of Northrop Grumman. And with his help, I created a group I called the EVR, the Engineering Visualization Resource. And basically, I recruited a great team of young creative people who are both engineers and artists. And this was back in the 1990s. So computer graphics was just emerging as a tool that you could purchase and use. So we use those emerging tools to create these visions of the future of aerospace, the products and the processes that the company and NASA would be using as we move forward into our future. Now, in parallel to my engineering career, I independently created a company which I called Aerospace Imageneering. I was a big fan of movies, especially aviation and science fiction movies, and I thought I could design the vehicles you see in these movies as good as anyone. So I created this company, and the company is just me. I'm the CEO, the chief engineer, and the janitor, and everything in between. But I didn't have any idea on how to go about getting work in Hollywood, but I created a portfolio of vehicle ideas. And Hollywood has a large number of amazing artists who are probably better artists than I am, but a lot of them don't know really anything about aerospace. So that's where I focused. I created this portfolio of vehicles, but I created them using everything I learned about aerospace engineering. So I designed them and defined the details as if they would actually work. Because now, a lot of people in Hollywood really don't care about such things, but some do. Some producers and directors do want their what they depict in the films to be realistic. So with this portfolio, I managed to get work on about a dozen different films. As Syahirah mentioned in my introduction, I worked on such films as Supernova and Apollo 13, the first two Iron Man films. And on some of these, I was just a technical advisor, but on some movies like Stealth, I actually got to design the vehicles that were shown in the movies. So it was very exciting. Now, my current movie is a film called Persephone. I'm working with this very talented gentleman pictured here. His name is Jeffrey Morris. He brands himself as the future dude. So I highly encourage all of you to go to futuredude.com and see what Jeffrey is up to. He's not only a director and producer, but a very talented designer in his own right, and a writer. So Jeffrey does it all. And he is a Hollywood type of person who does want to get the science and technology correct. So I've really enjoyed working with him. As with many films, they've been challenged by the pandemic. So this film has been delayed, but hopefully the actual filming will start this year. There's been a lot of planning and pre-production done already, and hopefully we'll see this film come out perhaps in 2023. Now, working on a film is not perhaps the best example of how art advances science, but it kind of is. If you think about it, many people who are not don't pursue a education or a degree in science or engineering or mathematics, a lot of what they learn about these subjects, they learn from watching movies. So the more you can get the STEM elements correct in a movie, you're kind of doing outreach to get people interested in the real sciences and technology. So my role on this film has been across the board. I get to storyboard little sequences like this to show how sequences described in the script might actually happen. A lot of what I do is diagrammatic stuff like this. Scenes are described in the script, like for instance, showing the Starship approaching the Proxima Centauri system. And a lot of the young filmmakers are very smart people, but they don't necessarily know a lot about space technology and orbital mechanics. So a lot of what I do is about timing. When the filmmakers create the various scenes in the movie and they have the actors dialoguing back and forth, they don't necessarily have a good feel for how long it takes various space exploration sequences to occur. For instance, some things may take only seconds, some minutes, hours, or months. So by putting together these diagrams, I help the filmmakers. If you look close, I've even annotated the scenes versus the timing, so they know, oh yeah, this braking maneuver using rocket power will take about 5 minutes. This other capture maneuver may take hours, and this way they could incorporate that as they get to the point of actually filming the scenes. Here's another example, and all my work in the aerospace industry with creating diagrammatics like this and making them at least somewhat artsy has really helped me to do outreach in the film industry. For instance, there's one scene calling for an emergency maneuver where the heroes in the film, who are women, by the way, they have to make an emergency landing on the planet. And the filmmakers didn't know, well, is this going to take minutes, hours? And just judging from the reentry events that we are currently engaged in, from the Apollo era to the space shuttle, a reentry takes about 15 minutes. So by creating a diagram like this, I helped them understand and pace the film accordingly. All right, well, that's kind of my engineering and Hollywood experience encapsulated in a proverbial nutshell. Now let's talk a little bit about the International Association of Astronomical Artists. So as Syahirah mentioned, and as far as I know, we are the only such organization on the planet, bringing artists together who are dedicated to creating images of space. I'm currently the president of this organization, and our mission is one of outreach. We promote, we educate, we implement projects, we foster international cooperation, and hopefully we inspire people along the way to pursue the arts as well as STEM. And as Syahirah mentioned, I like to put art has its place with science, technology, and engineering and mathematics at the same level. So we call it STEAM. STEAM is a lot better to say and more fun than STEM anyway. So this happens to be the 40th anniversary of our organization. We were formed in 1982. We currently have almost 200 members in about 20 countries. A lot of our members are from the United States and Europe and the United Kingdom, but we're slowly trying to expand our borders and include and create a much more international presence. So we've recently had members join us from Pakistan and India, and Syahirah is our first member from Malaysia. And we're happy to have her. So she is not only a full-fledged artist member, but she is our ambassador to Malaysia. So we're very happy about that. And we hope to expand. We produce a magazine called Pulsar biannually, and we're involved in many events with other organizations. So here's a sampling of artwork from our many artists. I'm very pleased to say that most of the world's best space artists, as far as I'm concerned, are members, both men and women. And our members come from all walks of life. Many have no science background at all, but they just love the whole idea of envisioning space and astronomical subjects. We do have many of the world's best women space artists like Lucy West and Marilyn Flynn, Michelle Rausch, and Syahirah, and Robin Hart. We have planetary scientists like Dr. William Hartman and Dr. Dan Durda. We even have former astronauts like Ron Garan and Nicole Stott, and some of the greats who are no longer with us, like the great Robert McCall, the great Alan Bean. So it's quite an organization. One of the fun things we do is we host workshops. We love to travel to otherworldly locations on the Earth that have geologic analogs to the same features we see on other worlds. So it's a great way to have fun in a wonderful environment, but also study those features we see on other planets and moons. And one of the things we do when we're at a location, like here we are at the famous meteor crater in Arizona in the USA. And as you can see, I had some fun with Photoshop with this image. Our artists are so busy painting, they don't even see the otherworldly visitor hanging over their heads here. Lastly, we have some publications that I want to mention. We recently, sorry, my mouse is dancing around here. We have published a book called The Beauty of Space Art, which is available at your favorite bookseller, Amazon and any other bookseller. It's a chronicle of the IAAA, an illustrated journey through the cosmos. It features over 250 artworks of our members, and our members were also the authors who wrote the various articles. I wrote the chapter on space hardware art, as you might imagine. And the great Alan Bean, who unfortunately passed away not too many years ago. Of course, a moonwalker, a lunar module pilot from Apollo 12, who's also a fantastic artist in oils, who created just wonderful works that incorporated not just the presence, but the emotion of being on the moon. And he, on many of his pieces, he apparently sprinkled a little bit of moon dust on some of the illustrations he created. And a current project I'm excited to announce is we've been working with David Eicher, the editor-in-chief at Astronomy magazine, and we have a special space art issue that will be coming out this summer. So we don't know what the cover will actually look like yet, but we're awaiting this publication with great anticipation. Okay, bear with me for a moment. The remainder of my talk will be about envisioning the unseen. And by that, I mean, how do we use art to communicate complex ideas? So now there are many ways that art has advanced science and engineering and aerospace technology, in my opinion. And I will talk about the few areas that I've personally had experience in. Now, as Syahirah alluded to, the artists can take the human mind in places where no one has gone, even though we have the Hubble and we have the amazing James Webb Space Telescope coming out that will create amazing works that will inspire everyone. Even those tools can't still take us to, for instance, what would it be like to be standing on the surface of an exoplanet? It's going to be quite a while before we have interstellar space probes that can do that, but the artists can do that. For instance, here's my rendition of standing on the surface of one of the planets in the TRAPPIST system, an amazing, very compact little mini solar system that we discovered not too long ago. And my own specialty in the world of aerospace engineering is envisioning what future aircraft and spacecraft might look like in their operating environments. And here you see many examples I created with my team when I was at Northrop Grumman. And now these are take skill to create, but they're not all that conceptually challenging. For instance, any one of the general public looking at these images would say, oh yeah, that's a spaceship up in orbit, or here's a launch vehicle staging. You could immediately see what the subject is all about. But as I progressed through my journey as an aerospace engineer, and I started to work with the leadership of both at NASA and in my own company, people who are executives and people who are chief engineers and proposal managers, I came to realize that they had some real communication challenges in areas that were not so obvious. And it was those unseen things, like more and more we're dependent on complex networks, things you can't necessarily see. I'm showing two examples that are more a part of the defense industry. For instance, how the commanders communicate in real time on a global scale with troops out in the field. And we have such a huge array of unmanned vehicles and satellites and ways of explaining information. So normally our people might try to envision these things as kind of boring block diagrams. So I made it my personal specialty to create visions like this to try to make them more exciting and to make people say, wow, what's that picture represent? As a lead-in to explaining what are the challenges that our company and our future leaders face. So, and another area of the unseen is just the electromagnetic spectrum in general. I mean, we're used to optical astronomy. We could see things with telescopes and with space-based and ground-based telescopes, but we are constantly exploiting other areas of the electromagnetic spectrum, and yet you can't see it. For example, a simple thing as Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is not that simple, but yet you take it for granted. We're bathed in this frequencies, and yet you can't see it. What does the Wi-Fi network look like? So, as I worked with engineers and scientists on envisioning future aircraft and spacecraft, those vehicles incorporate many, many sensors that each exploit a different part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and sometimes they'll interfere with each other. Sometimes they're both demanding power from the same resources. So I've created numerous, literally hundreds of illustrations like this, and I created a visual language. I kind of call it beamology, using color coding to show the difference between, ground beams and air beams and space-based beams, and how they all work together to allow the system to operate. Okay, so with that, I want to end this with just briefly going over two case studies. How did I use my engineering and my art skills to help my customers solve their communication problems? Okay, first, I'm going to go back about 20 years. While working at Northrop Grumman, I was challenged by a gentleman named Scott Seymour. He was our vice president and general manager of the Northrop Grumman integrated systems part of the company. This was an exciting time for us because we were just becoming a prime contractor for human space systems. We had not done that before, and we had teamed with Boeing to pursue what NASA at the time was calling the Project Constellation, to develop the crew exploration vehicle, and that is now the Orion spacecraft that you see. NASA just recently finally rolled out on the Space Launch System, the SLS. Well, going back to this time frame, Scott wanted a really cool poster and artwork to kind of proclaim and market the idea that we were moving out into this area. So I wanted to create a real emotional scene, a visual scene of human beings emerging from the clouds and from the earth and forging ahead to expand into space. I created this pencil sketch and then a color sketch, which Scott really liked. And I also wanted to highlight, you can see I have a sailing ship and a propeller airplane to highlight our journey as we progressed in technology and as we ventured out into the cosmos. And I wanted to point out the importance of sketching, because as you start to work with a lot of people, you may think that they're understanding what you're describing with your words. And me being of Italian descent, I'm always waving my hands around as I'm explaining these things, but they don't always get it. So doing even rough sketches really helps a lot to help them focus on what you're trying to do. Well, Scott loved this, but then he handed me off. He says, well, Aldo, whatever you create, it's got to also represent what the systems engineers and the analysts want. So my vision was quickly rejected by those folks, and they wanted what you see on the right here. Of course, creating a spacecraft program involves many, many people, and everyone has got their little piece of the puzzle. They wanted to show their launch vehicles, command and control, what a moon base might look like, what a Mars base might look like, what all the elements of the space architecture look like. So I had to challenge, well, wow, how am I going to put all this together into an illustration? So here's what I finally came up with. Now, this is not the kind of work you would see in an art gallery, but nonetheless, it's diagrammatics like this are essential for communicating these complex ideas. So my tool of choice for creating this sort of thing is Photoshop. And this image you see here was an enormous file. This Photoshop image was at least almost 10,000 pixels in the vertical dimension and incorporated at least 60 independent Photoshop layers to bring together the final image. And let me just show you just some portions of the image. Here we are zoomed into the upper portion. There's a lot of even little details I put in there that you can't easily see. For instance, on Phobos, you could see I've got a little human habitat there with a fuel processing plant. And I also like to incorporate little fun things that everyone may not always see. For instance, if you look out into the asteroid belt, I've got the Death Star, just in case anyone was looking real close at the picture. Looking at the lower portion of the picture, one thing that you artists don't normally incorporate in these kind of illustrations is the network. Just like we demand good Wi-Fi and internet connectivity here on Earth, as we expand out to the moon and Mars and beyond, we're going to demand the same thing. And yet you don't see that in illustrations. So you could see the green network I've got in the background. I was trying to incorporate that idea that as we expand, our networks are certainly coming with us. And as you look at mission control on the lower right, if you look close on the desk, I've got Buzz Lightyear over there. So, just incorporating a little fun. Okay, and my last case study is from about 5 years ago. The IAAA was approached by the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, the NRAO. They were working toward coming up with a whole new array of radio telescopes on the Earth. I know many of you are familiar with the VLA, if you look on the upper right, that's in Socorro, near Socorro, New Mexico. I'm sure you've seen the film Contact with Jodie Foster, and she's hanging out at that amazing array when she makes first contact with the alien signal coming down from interstellar space. So myself and a few other artists, including my good colleague John Raymer here, who is currently the vice president and was the former president of the IAAA, we were invited to join this amazing team of astronomers and scientists. We spent a week with them, and they were trying to come up with the requirements, what they call the science use cases for developing what they're calling the NGVLA. That's the next generation very large array. During that week, it was fantastic. We got to work with these scientists. We got to tour the VLA personally and sit in on all their talks. So most of the time we spent, what you see in the lower left here, sitting in on all their ongoing presentations. So while the scientists were doing science, I got to doodle. I broke out my notebook, and here's some sketches I made as they were describing and discussing all the exotic objects out there in the cosmos, dust rings, protoplanetary rings, exotic exoplanets, neutron stars and pulsars. But ultimately, what they wanted the artists to do was to come up with some graphics that would help communicate radio astronomy to the general public. And that is quite a challenge. The optical astronomy community, of course, they have the advantage of their amazing ground-based telescopes, as well as Hubble, and again, as I mentioned, the up-and-coming JWST, that create spectacular imagery. Now, even if you're an artist and you're just going to create your own interpretations, you still have this amazing imagery as a basis for your work. But radio astronomy doesn't make those kind of pictures. They're looking at radio waves. I mean, they make, you've probably seen some imagery that they've used to, they assign colors to different frequencies, but they wind up looking like real blobs. They don't have the compelling nature of the imagery coming down from the Hubble. So I was really challenged to figure out, what can I create to help these people explain their message. So I was coming up with like diagram ideas. Maybe we look across the electromagnetic spectrum at the various frequencies that NASA spacecraft have exploited. And the radio bandwidth is very wide. So maybe something like that. I had the idea of maybe making some kind of a multimedia presentation where you could interactively move a slider back and forth, and you would go from the optical representation of something like a galaxy to its radio frequency representation. But finally, they simply like this sketch here, showing maybe the ground-based array and some of the wonderful objects in the cosmos. So what I ultimately came up with is this illustration you see here, which I call Cradle of Life. I was specifically assigned with the biosciences team, and what these scientists were trying to do is figuring out the requirements for finding what they call the biological markers, certain molecules like methanol, formaldehyde, and others that are out there in the cosmos. They could sort of see them now with the VLA, but the current VLA doesn't have quite the fidelity they're looking for to really help determine if there is life out there at great distances beyond what spacecraft can reach. So again, I created, sorry about that, this illustration. As you could see, I've got this artistic kind of plume coming out from this planetary disk, and you could see the molecules out there, which are those biological markers. I've got an engineering 3D model of what the NGVLA looks like on the Earth, and all the beams are actually pointing to its location on an actual Google Maps representation of the area in New Mexico. And one interesting thing they discovered while operating the VLA for many years, the current VLA has a very geometric triangular arrangement, but as it turns out, when you add the signals from all those independent radio telescopes, they sort of interfere with each other if they're two lined up together. So as you could see, this is an accurate kind of ground positioning of the array. It turns out the array will work better if there's a certain randomness to the position of the antennas. So they've learned this over time. But in any case, they really liked my final graphic that they used for promotion. And I was very pleased to work with them, and hopefully we get the opportunity to work with them again. So in summary, in my career, I've seen the advantage of combining art with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Becoming an expert at art is just as hard as any other discipline, and those together equal STEAM. I like to say, give me STEAM. STEAM is where we are headed. Whether you're an artist looking to work with scientists, or whether you're a scientist or a technologist looking to enhance your ability to explain what you're doing, art facilitates communications. And above all, keep your dreams alive no matter what you are pursuing. Wow. Okay. And now I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. I will go ahead and stop the share.
Absolutely amazing, Aldo. And this is why I'm glad to have you. I consider you as my mentor. So this is why.
Okay.
Aldo is absolutely amazing. And I love the presentation, and I take note of some of your points, and I love this one. Artists put different discipline of knowledge in the same level with us. And I love that, because there is art in every discipline, and we need art to visualize whatever knowledge that we have to people. And this has been proven over and over again for centuries. And
absolutely.
And I love your sketches, because sketches from an artist make the art more for the audience, make it more achievable. They feel like, oh, I can do that. And it makes the art more human. Because when I see your artworks, they're amazing, and I feel like, how can I ever achieve that? How can I ever produce such artwork? And when I look at your sketches, it starts with this sketch, and everyone can do a sketch, even though you not really skilled in art yet. Like for me, I consider myself still a beginner in creating art, because I have no formal education in arts, as well as astronomy, actually. But when I look at the sketches, I feel like I can do this.
Well, good for you. And, no matter how digital I've gotten, as you could see, I always start my work by doodling little pictures. I mean, it's comfortable. It just, at this point in my life, I'm juggling many priorities and projects with customers, but as soon as I start doodling a little sketch, it kind of calms me down. And that's the way, no matter how complex the work I've created, it always starts with that sketch. So it grounds me in the traditional skills. And by the way, don't sell yourself short. I think your work is amazing, and you have a natural feel for the sciences and the arts, and it shows in your work. So I think you have a great future going forward. I see we have a question in the chat. Okay, from Emma. Well, thank you, Emma, for loving the work. And you ask how people distinguish illustration art for art and illustration art for science. Some art may help in understanding science, but some may divert from the message of science. Well, that's a good question. And Hollywood is one of the biggest culprits. I mean, let's face it, they have a very glitzy way of representing things. They have a super technology in what they call CGI, computer generated imagery. But just because you create glitzy CGI, that doesn't mean the physics or the astronomy or the science is accurate. And Star Wars and Star Trek are enormously successful, and they've become franchises, which means, hey, I could, the financial people realize I can make more and more movies and keep the cash flow going. And I don't blame them. Of course, they want to stay in business, but they've established a certain look that now they can't break away from. The way space travel is depicted in Star Wars, for instance, is completely ridiculous. and I don't think they intended, when George Lucas made it, he probably didn't know they're going to make all that many movies and Disney was going to buy them. And now it's going to be with us for centuries, but almost nothing they depict is realistic. So, if you're an artist and you're trying to bridge the worlds of science technology, I don't want to put them down. Star Wars and Star Trek have done an amazing job at getting people excited about, hey, maybe I want to pursue real science and technology, and then they learn the differences. So, I think I handle that challenge as they come. I'm very happy that I'm working with a filmmaker now who is really interested in showing things more realistically. And I just take each thing I work on as a little battle. Well, maybe I could convince these people that why don't you show things this way rather than that? And a lot of times the real science is actually more exciting than the way they depict it in the film world. So, so there's no one single answer to that question. The whole world of media is diverting us from the truth, and it's up to each of us to do our part to kind of push people in a good direction.
So make astronomy, science exciting through arts, but keep it grounded. It's ironic how we're looking up, but keep it grounded to scientific facts and informations.
Right.
And yeah, I have a question for you. What do you wish to work based on your artistic skills and your knowledge in aerospace engineering? Like, what haven't you achieved yet and you wish to do someday?
Oh, well, you've hit it right on the head. Well, I've created a whole vision of where I think of human spacefaring. In other words, a step-by-step plan to go from here out to the cosmos. To some extent, it's to counter exactly what I just talked about. I've designed a whole infrastructure of vehicles and environments and spacecraft, and I want to show it in an exciting manner. What's really holding me back is, I've sketched all this stuff out. I have a huge file cabinet of what all these things look like, but people are demanding now. You've got to make it look cool. And right now I was spoiled when I had my visualization team of young people like yourself working for me. They created all the 3D models. So even though I learned a little bit of 3D, now that I'm on my own, I don't know how to use a 3D application. And I'm really good at Photoshop. I mean, I could fake just about anything in Photoshop, but I really need to model these vehicles. So I'm not sure if I should, build a team. I kind of, being an egotistic artist, I want to do it all myself, but I'm so busy with customers and clients and being president of the tribe, I just got to sit down and learn the 3D tools. I mean, I managed a 3D group, for heaven's sake. So, I know exactly how 3D works and all the elements involved in building 3D models and rendering, but I just got to sit down and get that skill set back that I used to have. But it's okay. It's a good challenge to have. As far as I'm concerned, at 64 years old, I'm still a kid. As long as I stay healthy, that is what I'm dedicated, what I just described, envisioning this positive spacefaring future. And it's one thing that I really want to show is how spacefaring will save the Earth. As far as I'm concerned, all these people who say, well, why are we putting money in space exploration when we have challenges down here? To me, the Earth is like our living room. You can't have, in one corner, we're forging, iron and swords, and we're going to the bathroom within one room. Heavy industry needs to move out into space. And I have a sequence of illustrations I want to create that shows how initially we're going to, and all these people who are, we're surrounded in orbit by all these satellites. It's only going to get worse. But at some point, we will push our infrastructure back further away from the Earth, and the Earth will return to Gaia, to the mother world, where it'll be green and wonderful again. And I think space exploration is ultimately the way to do that. So that's going to be one of the key elements of this vision that I will be creating for the rest of my life.
That is amazing. People have been talking that they can only talk, but having an artist to visualize that, will give a fresh new perspective of the future for our Earth and also space exploration. And I would love to see that, because just saying might not get to people, but when they see the visualization from an artist who also have the knowledge in space exploration, in aerospace engineering, in astronomy, that would open their eyes. Mr. Fires has a question.
Absolutely. Well, that's why it's good to be part of a team, and hopefully you will help me, and I will help you, and we'll get our other artists to participate in projects like this. So we have some good work ahead of us.
Count me in.
Planetariums have a key role in this. A lot of people look at the sky. They don't, even if they're lucky to be in a dark sky area, they don't realize what they're looking at. But a good planetarium show takes people on a journey. Each show is an individual journey. When I was a teenager, I volunteered at a planetarium. So Mr. Firos, I appreciate what you're trying to do. And I understand the challenges of keeping a planetarium going and funding it, but it's crucial to astronomy outreach to the general public.
Yeah, that's right. Your talk give me some just sparking ideas. Maybe Syahirah, we should ask Malaysian to envision how Malaysians look like in 2057.
Exactly.
In conjunction with our 100 years of independence. Maybe very simple one like poster contest. How do
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. So, but the question to you, Aldo, I look your article in your presentation, but to make myself clear, how the best way to bring arts people and to bring science people to meet somehow in the middle. What is the features to bring and to join them? Because sometimes I thought this is like proton and proton. It's not easy to put very close, but maybe you have some ingredients. Your advice, Aldo. Thank you.
Well, that's an excellent question, Firos. And it's a challenge because as I've learned, I've worked on some of the most advanced technology stuff that hasn't even been mentioned publicly yet. The technology is nothing compared to the people challenges. We're chatting here friendly, and I'm so glad to be talking to like-minded people. And a lot of artists, they work independently and they've never worked on a team. I've worked in a big corporation, and people have a vision of corporations that you see in movies. Corporations are always evil. Like look at the corporation that the Stark Industries. They're building weapons and proliferating. So you've got the perception problem, and then within a corporation, people are people. In any group of 100 people, you've got a lot of people who are good workers and want to work together. Scientists, engineers, the business people, the administrators. You've got a few brilliant people on one end who will really lead the way, but then you have a few people who are not all that good. They're either lazy, or even worse than that, they have bad intent and they're out for their own good, and they will subtly do things to work against the project. So any human endeavor has got that challenge, even the one you're talking about. A lot of scientists don't get it, and they poo-poo, what are those artists? What do we need those moody people who just want to lie around and do drugs? They don't have a good vision of who artists are. So now one thing I work on that I really like that helps answer your question is some academic institutions. I've been working with the ASU, the Arizona State University, and they are a group that they actually are NASA contractors. They are contracted to support the NASA Psyche mission. Psyche is really exciting because you'll hear more about it in the news, because I believe they're going to launch later this year. Psyche is a mission to an all-metal asteroid. Almost every asteroid we've explored so far are these loose, rocky conglomerations of hydrocarbons and things, but Psyche is a big chunk of metal. I don't know what kind of metals, but they value the value of it is potentially more than the entire economy of the Earth. Imagine if when we start building infrastructure out there, an asteroid like Psyche is priceless. It might have a trillion tons of titanium and iridium and all these exotic metals we need. So my point is, the other point I want to make about ASU, they are multidisciplinary, much more than any institution I've ever worked at. In other words, their program for their students encourages the artists and the scientists to work together. They want art people to sign up for science classes. They want science people to sign up for art classes. Look, one of my colleagues at MIT that I graduated with, who's a geologist by the name of Steve Semkin, invited me to speak at ASU before the pandemic about 4 or 5 years ago. And they gave me a tour, and I was just blown away by, even at MIT, which I love, they had nothing like this this cross-pollination of disciplines, the arts and, the literature as well, not just, visual art, musicians, everything. And so now they've got a program called Psyche Inspired. And I'm going to send Syahirah the link because they have an online, Psyche Inspired invites students, not just from ASU, but students from around the world to participate in this program to explore the connection between art and science. Their specific task is, how do we communicate the Psyche mission through art to the general public? And I've been asked, I'm a speaker to that group of interns every year. I just did one about a month ago, and it's just wonderful. So I think they are the model for a program to do exactly what you said. So, and the people I work with at Psyche, I'm sure would be more than happy to communicate with you and perhaps share some ideas. Maybe you can get some, some sponsorship or some connection between your planetarium with the Psyche Inspired program.
Yeah,
so
yes, please, I'm very happy to discuss about that. But
okay.
One more, sorry, Syahirah, if you allow me, one more question to Aldo. Sometimes maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. IAAA is lucky because you are the president and you are an engineer. Engineers
Right.
thinking like scientists. We are working with timeline, very detailed timeline. But artists is not working like that.
That's right.
I'm experienced working with some artists. They have their own thinking. Maybe Syahirah can correct me, or maybe you are not agree with me. It's okay. But I think that the thinking are different. How do you judge between?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, as Syahirah can tell you, my title is not really president as much as the chief cat herder, because the artists are like cats, right? They don't want to be herded. They don't care about your timeline. Hey man, I'm not working today, forget it. So, and as I talk more and more, I talk to young people around the world, from the elementary grades to the college. And as an engineer and an artist, I'm blessed with a good right-left brain mix. You don't want the business-focused brain to totally squelch your creative side, but the creative side does not care about budget and schedule. And I tell most artists that I talk to, I say, don't worry about your artwork. You're already a pretty good artist. I mean, of course you want to enhance your skills, but if you really want to be a competitive artist, what you should learn is some basic business fundamentals: how to manage your money, how to estimate your hours that it takes to create your artwork. I know that's hard to do. As Syahirah mentioned, you can't do that perfectly, but the better you can do that. And when you commit, if you tell someone, I'm going to create 5 artworks for your planetarium show, I will get them done in 2 months. If you, Firos, I know if you contact that artist in 2 months, where's my artwork? And, oh man, sorry, I went to the beach. Well, I'm never going to hire that person again. People have to understand commitment. So that's what you said is exactly right. You don't want to suppress the artist mentality, because that's where creativity comes from. But artists who are pure artists have to learn at least a little bit, or at least team with somebody. If you have a friend who's a business person, well, team up with that friend. Have that friend beat you up and say, hey, come on, you've got to come up with a plan and a schedule so that you could create art to meet other people's needs, and then they will come back and hire you again. They'll pay you. So that's usually the carrot. I say, well, look, if you want to get paid to be an artist, learn a little bit of business sense, and you will go very far, even if you're not as good as other artists. But if you are consistent, that's what people are looking for who want to hire people.
Thank you, Aldo. And Planetarium is lucky because Syahirah thinking and acting like a scientist. Thank you, Syahirah, for your help to National Planetarium. Okay, back to you, Syahirah.
Most welcome. This reminds me of comic artists in Japan, your mangakas. They work to meet their deadline, which is like very short, but they have to create those arts in such a short time. And we should learn from them. I mean, artists should learn from them, because that's, of course, that's how they pay for their living. So that motivates them. And for Mr. Fire's first question, I would like to tell you this. I would like to enlighten you on this artist. Her name is Katie Patterson. Aldo Spadoni. Aldo, if you know him, if you know her, Aldo. Katie Patterson.
Is she the woman in Australia?
No, she's currently artist in residence in University College London. She's
okay.
Yeah,
I may have seen her work before. I'm not real familiar, but yeah, that does sound somewhat familiar. Yeah.
She's working together with astronomers and astrophysicists. So she's the artist of the group. So whatever research the astronomers and astrophysicists are conducting, she is giving another perspective of those researches and the things that they're studying. And so she made art. She made these confettis of exploding stars. She made this it's like a disco light, but with pictures, tiny pictures of solar eclipses, and so much more. You can I think I will provide you the link later.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's, I got the idea how artists and scientists can meet. So having an artist in the same room with astronomers, astrophysicists, astrobiologists will help these people to see this knowledge in different perspective, in an artistic perspective, within their imaginations.
Absolutely. And, and some institutions do get it. For instance, NASA has always had an artist in residence program. Even, Chris Calley, who is our member, is the son of Paul Calley, who was present during the Gemini and Apollo missions, capturing with sketches as the astronauts prepared and they got their spacesuits on and all that. And they had the fine art program. So for other institutions who do science and research who have not done that, we could point to the NASA example, because everyone looks up to NASA. So I think there isn't a single program that wouldn't benefit from some kind of artist in residence or fine art program. And that's, most companies have an audio visual group where they do graphics and illustrations to create their PowerPoint slides and all that. But that doesn't necessarily encourage real fine art kind of creativity. So beyond that, they need to really have a fine arts kind of a program. And maybe one thing the IAAA can do is come up with a set of guidelines for companies, and organizations. How do you create a fine art program? Our challenge is we're all volunteers and we're all busy with our, trying to earn a living or do other things. So, you need some volunteer to take on the role. But that would be great to come up with and actually, if we search on the internet, there probably are good guidelines for how does one create a artist in residence or fine art program to encourage artist participation.
That'll be great, because I would love to propose that to Mr. Pyros. If you're able to share these ideas with universities or with space agency in Malaysia, That will be great, and I will refer to Aldo as well on how to do that, how to have artists in residence with the scientists and astronomers in Malaysia.
Sure. And, on any of the initiatives you do, Syahirah, working with Firos and others, I'm happy to stay as a mentor. I can't always do the work. I'm very busy, but I could certainly, and you're good at coming up with proposals and documents. You keep me in the loop and I'll help you with advice on any initiative like that.
Exactly what I need. Thank you so much, Aldo.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Fires?
Okay.
No, I think I agree with what we are discussing. And I'll pass back to you and finish with my question. Maybe Syahirah can conclude, or maybe Aldo also can conclude how the best way for the young comers, for the young Malaysian to involve to become a future space artist in Malaysia.
Okay. Originally I was going to, as I put my presentation together, I was wondering if I should take more of that approach, and I didn't do it because I was responding to the interest in how art advances science and technology. But perhaps at some point we could do another session on, well, how do you become an artist? One big challenge is, you either create art for yourself and then you promote it. And a lot of artists would prefer that approach. In other words, rather than working for someone and creating art that they're asking for, create your own art. In any case, you have to have some kind of portfolio, so you have to start with that. But you either create art and you take the sort of gallery approach and promote yourself, which is certainly an approach. But let's face it, you're competing with a heck of a lot of global artists out there. It's not easy, and you have to brand yourself. Like Syahirah. The reason I'm here is because she's good at creating a global presence, and she reached out and connected, and she's kind of a brand. You got to think in terms of marketing. Companies spend billions on marketing, and an artist needs to think of themselves as a brand. I'm a brand. I need a logo. I have to create a presence, because how else are you going to get yourself out there? And you need to, so it's a lot of work if you're going to go that approach, because you have to be the kind of person who likes to market and put themselves out there, independent of the quality of the art you create. You need good art too, of course. Now, the other approach, of course, is still to create great art, but pick. You could be a generalist, but it's probably, I'm a specialist. I'm not interested in any kind of artwork that doesn't include spaceships. That's what I do. I'm a spacecraft guy. So pick a specialty you like. It could be biological, chemistry, whatever. See what other artists have done and figure out, well, can I find a niche? Do I have a unique way of envisioning these sort of things that I think might appeal to people? Create that portfolio, and then see if you can find scientists or administrators or people in academia who might take you on to create specific work that would support their field or their books or whatever work they're creating. So there are different approaches, but we could spend one or several sessions. And I'm certainly not a professional instructor or teacher or anything, but I have learned a lot about this stuff over time. I've been in a position to hire young people as employees and as subcontractors. So hopefully I could help you guys with that in the future.
I agree a lot with you on branding, Aldo, because it takes courage for me to brand myself. I think that it is a problem for every artist to think that our art is not that great. There are other people who are more skillful, and I don't think that my art deserves this. They would have that kind of mentality, but I have to go through that. I have to jump through that mentality, because I know that I'm going to do something that is more than just art. I want to deliver something. I want to deliver knowledge. I want to reach out to people about astronomy. I want to give them awareness about dark sky and light pollution. So I have to go beyond that and be confident with myself. And it's challenging, but and because I have a lot of artist friends also think the same way as I do, but that's a challenge you have to go through. And if you know that you're doing something good, you know, for the benefit of other people as well, and to educate, because I have this educator spirit in me. I want to educate people. So I am confident with my art, and I would love to share the knowledge that I have and my passion with the other people through my art.
Absolutely. And you know, as you and I were discussing, Syahirah, it would be great if someone, an institution in Malaysia, could sponsor you to come and visit the United States and participate in events with the artists of the IAAA when we have a big get together. I think you would learn a lot across the board, not only, you know, in your art skills, in your people skills, your ability to promote and present and educate, and then you could bring those back to Malaysia. So who knows, maybe we could figure out some way of funding a trip for you at some point. And I think, and I could be your sponsor on this end, and that would be wonderful.
Death Valley.
But also, as you said, for all the other artists you guys are trying to influence, you're right. You can't just look at it from the artwork. If you, I mean, if you're content to just do artwork and you have another means of supporting yourself, that's fine. Art can just be a hobby. You don't have to please anyone but yourself. But all artists want other people to say, "Wow, look at that painting, is wonderful. I want one too." You know, let's face it. That artist there's an ego associated with being an artist. It makes you feel good when you know people appreciate your work. So you do really need to learn a lot of skills beyond just the art if you want to get yourself out there. And it's scary. I'm sure it's, you know, who knows what kind of people you're attracting when you go out there and market yourself. But you know, but you have to manage that. And so quite a few skills are involved in being a successful artist beyond the artwork itself.
I'm learning a lot from the IAAA tribes, and I feel like opportunities just opening for me once I join IAAA. It's just I learn a lot. Just even though people are not directly teaching me, I'm learning from what people from the artists doing and applying it to myself and see the situation. Like in Malaysia, how am I going to promote space art? And I'm glad that Mr. Pyros also wanted to connect with me and do program with me. Not just Mr. Pyros, but Planetarium Negara. Yeah.
And you know, you folks have the advantage of speaking English very well. I mean, I would be dead in the water if I had to do a briefing in Malay. So, and not only that, and not only do you speak English well, you understand the nuances of English language, at least the way Americans speak it. So as a relatively small international organization, we have that challenge. I'd love to connect with other people, but if we don't speak their language, how do we get past that barrier? And I think even just in space art, if we could work towards solving that problem, let's face it, the whole planet has that problem. How do we better communicate with each other? Because the language barrier does yield probably a lack of understanding, and you tend to stereotype people. So the more we can figure out how to get past a language barrier, that'll help a lot as well. So I am so happy that you have invited me so that people can, you know, at least who's this American guy, you know, just get past that a little bit.
Thank you so much, Aldo, for your willingness to share your knowledge, your experiences, and just you know, be here with us, spending your time for Malaysians that who have never seen you before. But I have told them, I have spread in social media telling you about how amazing you are. And I hope that this will not be the last. This will be the beginning of our of IAAA's connection with Malaysia.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have to recruit some more members. So as you need to identify other artists who you think would be attracted to us, who create the kind of art you know would be interested in, and you know, we'll see where it takes us. And Pyros, I don't know how you go about creating your planetarium performances, but we have a few members who are experts like Don Davis is known around the world for creating planetarium full dome animations. And we have Don Dixon, who was for many years the head of the art department at the Griffith Observatory and Planetarium in Los Angeles. So, we have quite a few members with, hard planetarium experience. So who knows that connection. And then I was actually had a little bit of training at the Hayden Planetarium in New York, and one of the most famous planetarium artists was Helmut Wimmer, who has long since passed. But he showed I spent an afternoon with him way back in the 70s, and he showed me how to use the airbrush. So the IAAA has quite a bit of planetarium legacy, and who knows, maybe we could do something where that to our mutual benefit along those lines.
Yeah, there is another one point of interest for National Planetarium, and I can link you to our planetarium experts for our planetarium shows.
Okay, that'd be great. All right.
I don't think that we can ever stop chatting about space art, because things are getting interesting once you have presented and I have presented. Like, we have more ideas on what to talk about. But so for next week on 9th April, we'll have another webinar with Jackie Burns. Meet the artists of IAAA, the career, the path, and the future.
And Jackie's great. You guys will have a great time with her. She does a little bit of everything: traditional art, she does digital art, she creates jewelry, she does outreach programs with children. So she's wonderful, and she's very good at presenting. So you'll really enjoy it.
She made batik before, cosmic batik. It's amazing. I would love to see her work next week.
Okay, great. Was this session recorded at all?
It is recorded. You can watch it again in Facebook, in Planetarium Negara's Facebook.
Oh, okay, wonderful. When you have a chance, go ahead and send me the link to the presentation.
All right, will do.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to bid you adieu and move on to the other things this evening.
All right, thank you so much, Aldo. Have a great evening.
Okay, well, thanks to both of you and to the planetarium for hosting me, and we will be in touch and continue our explorations.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, group photo.
Oh, group photo, yeah.
All right, wait, so let's end this first. Okay,
That's right.
I'll give the stage back to Rosnita.
Yeah, group photo would be great.
Yep.
So you're thinking about marketing. Good for you.
Okay. Terima kasih Puan Syahirah selaku moderator kita pada hari ini. And thanks for Mr. Aldo as a panel in the webinar. Until we meet again. Okay. Dengan berakhirnya sesi kedua kita pada pagi ini, maka berakhirlah majlis kita pada hari ini. Terimalah pantun daripada saya. Dari Kedah ke Pekansari, beli suasa di Kota Tinggi. Selesai sudah tugas diberi, di lain masa bersua lagi. Bunga dedap di atas para, anak dusun pasang pelita. Andai tersilap tutur bicara, jari disusun maaf dipinta. Saya mengucapkan terima kasih kepada semua tetamu iaitu pada pagi ini. Terima kasih juga kepada para penonton yang sudi bersama-sama saya dari Majlis Pelancaran sehinggalah sesi webinar kita pada hari ini. Sempena bulan Ramadan yang akan tiba tidak lama lagi, saya mengambil kesempatan ini mengucapkan selamat berpuasa kepada semua muslimin dan muslimat. Dan tidak lupa juga, kita telah masuk ke fasa endemik. Pelbagai kelonggaran yang telah diberikan, tetapi janganlah alpa terhadap kelonggaran yang telah diberikan. Patulah SOP yang sedia ada, iaitu memakai pelitup muka, patuhi jarak sosial, and sentiasa sanitize tangan, and stay safe. Okay? Saya Rosnita binti Marwan selaku pengacara pada hari ini ingin mengundur diri dan mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.